What's good, party people? This is Accord in the Woods, and I have the honor and privilege of welcoming back to the Accord in the Woods podcast, but also she will be making her return to Josh Barnett's Bloodsport tomorrow night in East Hollywood at the Ukrainian Cultural Complex. She's the one, the only, Kaz. Kaz, what's going on?
How's it going? So great to be back on the show. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I mean, I feel I literally have goosebumps because I think you and Zeta Zhang, it's cool that you're both my friends, but I don't want to be at crosswords with either one of you. But I think for the people that are going to be watching on Fight TV, the people that are going to be in attendance tomorrow night, which I will be, I think it's going to be one of the matches of the night.
Well, I'm so excited for the match. Obviously my original opponent, Killer Kelly, had to withdraw to, deal with some lingering health and, issues and whatnot, which is, kudos to her for, taking on that just like smart move of being responsible about, dealing with injuries and health and stuff, before like committing her life back into full-time wrestling, because I know as athletes it's sometimes hard to like accept that, hey, sometimes you have to deal with things before you can actually, perform at your full capacity. So but then when I found out that Zeta was going to be my opponent, like I was just equally as excited. So, I really respect the work that she's done over the last few years within wrestling. And I know she's got, a really solid background in MMA and Jiu Jitsu. So I really hope that, just all that, her background, my background combined is, going to make for a really good and exciting match. So yeah, super excited for sure.
Yeah, it's again. I've got goosebumps thinking about it.
Yeah.
Wallace Erdogan says, "What up, party people? What's good, Wallace?"
Wallace.
Yeah, man. Good to have you on. Now, but this is nuts because theoretically, this is actually the second Bloodsport here in LA. There was one held over the pandemic that had to be, held on a soundstage. Where, I mean, hell, the Grizzly Cal Jack. Because for those who don't know about Bloodsport, it's submission and KO. There's no pins. There's no what have you. Cal Jack hoists his opponent up for the night and throws him against a fucking brick wall, and that was his KO. Right?
I mean, technically, it's a KO, right? Like, when we're not like, rewriting like, what am I saying?
You're not breaking kayfabe at all.
Yeah, that's a KO. You're launching someone into a wall, which theoretically knocks them out, which is theoretically legal. So I fucking love it.
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely.
Anything goes.
But that was like theoretically the first Bloodsport, and then now we actually have a live crowd. This is what I've wanted since. I mean, even Matt Riddle. The first Bloodsport was Matt Riddle, and then it gets handed and bestowed to none other than former UFC Metamours, King of Pancrase, and IWGP champion, the War Master Josh Barnett. And I'm probably forgetting a couple, deals there. Right. But, this is what I've wanted because I dabble both in MMA and pro wrestling. So this is my type of sports entertainment, wrestling, catch, whatever you want to call it. Submission grappling.
It's a sport. Like, when it comes down to it, everyone that steps in that ring or on those mats is an athlete. We go out there, we compete to the best of our abilities. So it's nothing less than a sport. And, that's how I treat my training going into it. That's how, everyone else that I've talked to who is competing on the card treats it. We treat it like it's a fight, because it is. I don't know how else to define it other than I'm going in there, I'm bringing my best. I would expect that my opponent is going to go in there and bring her best, and whatever the outcome may be is what it is, just like any fight. And it's an amazing opportunity to have the skill set that we have as fighters, and the understanding of like professional wrestling, and then having a platform to be able to execute that, and for people to understand that, and to see it and to enjoy it is like so wonderful. So it's such an honor to it was such an honor to have been invited to the first Bloodsport, and to have been invited back is, it's incredible. It's an incredible feeling, and I'm, words cannot describe how excited and just honored I feel just to be part of it. And I feel like we're kind of writing a part of history, just being part of this show that is going to be one of the first. We haven't had that many live shows, back in LA in terms of like wrestling. So, this is going to be up there as like, the one of the first things back. And it's really exciting to be in my old stomping grounds of East Hollywood. I used to live right down the road from the Ukrainian Center, and to be out. And then I've been to so many shows, GCW shows there, pre-pandemic, in the crowd, just loving the energy. And then to be walking out, into that very crowd, like I just I can't explain how significant this particular event is for me. So yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And again, as you said, I mean, for those who don't know about Zeta Zhang, she's actually under her you know, given name. She's actually 2-0 as a mixed martial artist. What Culture, funny enough, did like a top 10 of wrestlers that you didn't know competed in MMA. And I was just like, oh, left like 30 out. Like, if you're doing a top 10 or what have you. There was a U of MMA show back in, I think, 2016, where actually Shyler Andrews and Daria Barrento, I believe. I'm probably butchering the last name, but you know them now as Scorpio Sky and Sonya Deville, and they were actually competing on the same card. There was on the same card. There was only a fight between them.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean, that's what we do. Like, people can have their opinions and thoughts about professional wrestling, but at the end of the day, we're going in there and we're fighting. It's no less physical than any kind of combat sport. So I always have that sort of defensive, like, part of my brain ready to just like to defend it to anyone that will want to talk shit about it, because it's like you said, like so many of us have had that background of like being punched in the face, so we know what it feels like, to go out there and then to do it in that platform is no different. So it's just like a different manifestation of combat. So it's nothing less than an MMA fight or a grappling match. It's just a different manifestation of the same kind of art that we do, and that's how I see it, and that's what is the beauty about it for me. So yeah.
I love that you said that, because this is what I've told, and it's funny how pro wrestling fans might not like MMA fans might not like pro wrestling, but you talk to pro wrestlers, they love combat sports. You talk to combat sports athletes, they love pro wrestling, right? And chances are they got into it thinking they're going to be dropping elbows off of each other, off of the top rope and whatever, right? So I love that you kind of said that, because for me, right, pro wrestling when Gotch and Hackenschmidt were doing it at the turn of the century, very much looked pretty similar to Bloodsport or now MMA. Same thing with the pantheons of Greece and what have you.
Right.
The Pancration was pretty much MMA, right? With a different rule set. And nowadays, organizations like EBI and Combat Jiu Jitsu with open hand slaps, and Eddie Bravo's kind of mindset is essentially, that missing link in between ground fighting, whether it be sambo, catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Japanese jiu-jitsu, judo, what have you, and then striking, like the traditional martial arts of karate, boxing, what have you. That EBI and combat jiu-jitsu is the next evolution to it. To me, I actually put Bloodsport right along with it, because that's it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And like, any sort of like anyone who wants to argue against that probably doesn't really hasn't really opened their mind as to like the understanding of martial arts. And the word art is in martial for a reason, because it is an expression of something. So, going back to like how I sort of like philosophize and rationalize, everything that I do. I am a martial artist. That's like my background, but I'm also an artist. Like that's, my the rest of my time is filled with being like creative, and so it just so happens I just find different canvases to be able to express that art. Martial arts being one canvas, I did, on the computer screen is another canvas, and I'll have a physical canvas with paints as well. Like, it's all one and the same kind of energy, and that's why you'll see so many like musicians within professional wrestling as well. I mean,
Yes.
look at Andy Williams from Every Time I Die, and like
Yes.
he juggles being a freaking professional wrestler on television and also a full-time touring musician, which is
Mm-hmm.
insane and so admirable. And that's a perfect example of how that same energy of just that expression just manifests itself in different ways. And some people don't want to just have like one kind of avenue to do that, and other people do. They have their chosen kind of like art, and whatever it be, digital art, martial arts, or music, whatever. But people like me, who I have a little bit of like ADHD, so I can't like sit still and do like one thing. I have to do 20 million things, because like that's just like how my brain works. And sometimes it works against me and sometimes it works in my favor. But I just embrace it as much as I can. Like I try to just like focus on one thing, and I'm like, oh, I want to try that, and I want to do this, and then I want to learn how to do this, and it's like, okay, like fuck it, just do it all. Like, why not? So that's kind of like where my life and where my brain has taken my life to right now. I very much juggle the pretty decent career in like digital arts and stuff, alongside training and doing martial arts and doing professional wrestling. And every part of my day is filled with making something, or just making something of my time, and that's what brings me the most happiness. And yeah, just so fortunate to be able to have the opportunities, to be able to do it on a scale where people can see it and enjoy it, like just like any of my digital art, or like the music that I used to play in a band as well. So there you go, another sort of avenue of like my just things that I need to like try and do all the time. Keep busy, and I can't sit still.
Well, that's I mean, can't stop, won't stop. That's that's a virtuous life, and I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, obviously, you've been to GCW shows at the Ukrainian Cultural Complex itself in East Hollywood, all
Mm-hmm.
right? And this is a pretty stellar card. I mean, we're seeing none other than its namesake, Josh Barnett, step back in the squared circle, because there's
Mm-hmm.
no ropes, right?
Yeah,
Um, but in the squared circle, we have the legend of Minoru Suzuki. Actually, he's right there,
yeah.
that guy.
Respect.
This is stepping back in against the current United Wrestling Network world champion, the Dirty Daddy, Chris
Mm-hmm.
Dickinson,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, as a fan, right, and a purveyor of martial arts, as you are,
Mm-hmm.
which matches from the fan and martial arts perspective outside of your own, because obviously you're going to be Seth Phasers' son with Zeta, and Zeta is going to be the same with you. But
Mm-hmm.
what other matches are you looking forward to on this card?
Oh, I mean, definitely the two that you mentioned. They're sort of like it's pretty obvious that they're gonna be amazing, just because of like the people that are involved. But also like I'm really looking forward to Masha Slamovich and Marina's match. Like knowing both of their backgrounds and just what absolute beasts they both are. Like I cannot wait to see how that unfolds. Like I know it's going to be violent, and it's just and to see these amazing, strong, talented women go out there and just give it their all. Like you can't, how can you not be excited about that? Like that's just freaking awesome. And so I'll be very much like watching that match closely. But as a fan, like very excited for that too. And yeah, I mean, just Tom Lawler is on the card, and his background. Obviously, we all know like how accomplished he is in the fighting arts. And So I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see some of the LA Dojo guys go out there and, test their skills in this like format. Like that's awesome too. So just yeah, so many. Like I feel like outside of my match, I'm just like a fan of like all the other matches. Like it might sound like a mark, that fuck it, who cares? Like everyone's a kind of a mark to some extent to have to get into this, right? You gotta fucking love it, and I fucking love it. I love every aspect of training. I love every aspect of like watching it and being a fan, and it's great. Like, it's just I'm very fortunate and grateful to be in the opportunity to be given the opportunities and to be able to sit here and talk about it and then be able to wrestle tomorrow. And it's all awesome. I really can't say much more than that.
No, and again, a lot of the talking and the accumulation of your art will be bestowed right there in the middle of the squared circle, the no rope ring at the
Yep.
Ukrainian complex, the Ukrainian cultural complex in East Hollywood. That it can be streamed live on Fight TV if you're not there in attendance. Obviously, she's going to be there. I also will be there, so I cannot wait. Now,
Yep.
Kaz, for those who want to follow your journey, whether
Mhm.
that be the digital arts, the martial arts, and everything that you're doing as you head into Josh Barnett's Bloodsport, where can they find you on the interwebs? But I also linked them down below. So go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, just for branding consistency, like, I just kept my handles all the same, so it's just at Hey Karen Tran. So you can find me on Twitter, Instagram at Hey Karen Tran. Also, if you want to check out my corporate portfolio, heykarentran.com, so you can see all the work that I've done there. Just to add that in there.
Heck yeah. And again, for those who are inquiring, they are right down here in the description of this very podcast. And obviously, Kaz, thank you for joining us. I can't wait to see not just your match, but every other match. And it's weird because I've got friends fighting each other, and that gives me anxiety to the umpteenth degree. So I might pop an edible and head down 15 minutes
Perfect.
down the road. But yes, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you guys for joining us here at According to Woods. And if you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the According to Woods podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I mean, Kaz, you're subscribed to the podcast, aren't you?
Of course. Of course.
Yes. So and this is going to be a fun one, but if you don't believe me, you don't believe Kaz, and I don't know why you wouldn't. Well, maybe here's Kaz's opponent tomorrow night to convince you, Zeta Zhang.
Hey, this is Zeta Zhang. Make sure